be awkward indeed. I have to imagine this match, or as we go into this matchup, Kyle, who do you think is favored? Again, there's lots of key components, but when it comes down to it, who would you put ahead in this matchup?
I would think that if Pablo's able to find all of the right cards, that he would be in a situation where he's favored here. There is no Empoleon, so that's something that could definitely tilt the tides here. And this deck is able to take multiple prize cards in a turn. You're able to use that Raikou, so it's going to be very important for Jake to find a card like that Manaphy and be able to use that early on.
Well, Quick Ball will let Pablo know that that is no longer an option in the deck. We'll have to find the Hisuian Heavy Ball, but in this deck, there is no Hisuian Heavy Ball. So there's no way to find the Manaphy out of the prize cards. And this will be on Pablo to either try to make a bluff like that the Manaphy is not in the prize cards, or just make it very clear it's not there. Pablo's got a few options to do, but like a lot of skilled players, checking through the prize cards, making note of what cards are available, what cards are not available, and looking to most likely grab this Comfy. We did see a few Colress Experiment already in the hand, and that's great for your second turn, but as we know here in the standard format, cannot play a supporter this turn. Still have to do all you can to get set up and get going.
Yep. Gotta see what's going on in those prize cards here. Very important to find out what's happening. At least you do see that Comfy that you're going to be able to, likely be able to switch into. But this isn't exactly the ideal start. You'd love to have that Pokemon already in the active spot, not have to use one of those additional switching effects. That means likely one less card that could have been in the lost zone.
There's a Comfy grab. Did already see the Escape Rope in hand, so that is a great way to pivot out of the active. And Jake starting the Articuno is probably one of the starters you really don't want to start in this deck. Of course, there are worse ones, but utilizing something like Keep Calling on your first turn is definitely what you want to be doing. And Articuno is also very frail. 110 HP, so Spit Innocently does just enough damage. And Pablo, opting to just retreat first before this is played, does find a Comfy, but it would be at the cost of lost zoning this Ordinary Rod. That's what Pablo has to decide. Is it worth this point? But for this early game aggression, it feels like it's just worth to see a few more cards this turn and next turn off this Flower Selecting.
Yeah, I feel like getting at least 2 into the lost zone on the opener is the way that you could maybe get to 7 on turn 2, but 3 is definitely where you'd like to be at. It just makes it a lot more simple, but getting 2 is... It's fine. You've got that Colress Experiment for the following turn now, and it does stink to see the Ordinary Rod already in the lost zone along with one of your basic energies.
Jake Gearhart's hand here is very poor. There is no supporter card, no access to Sobble. Does have Palkia and the Origin form Palkia V and V-Star. However, there's no engine. This is the backbone of this Sobble engine. But in this matchup, though, it feels like while Drizzile finds all your pieces, it can be such a liability because of how low HP it has when compared to Sableye. And Pablo is deciding to play a whole bunch of basic energy types, 5 different types.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Pokemon at this stage is Pablo plays a deck that can feature a bunch of different basic energies and find so many different attackers. And Jake is just going to hold on to water energies trying to get the job done. And as he looks with the Capacious Bucket, sees the only 2 waters left in his deck. Maybe he has that last water in his hand, and sure enough, he does.
Yeah, at this point, not very beneficial to have those energies gone, but you still need to find pieces regardless this turn. And it looks like this is all Jake can do. Just attach the energy, pass turn over, and this signals to Pablo that there is not much going on in this hand for Jake. And this actually opens up a big turn for Pablo. There is the potential to find some pieces. And while you didn't find Battle VIP Pass now, that is so satisfying to just play the Colress, say, well, there's a lot of cards I don't want to find, but I would love to just get rid of these Battle Pass and not have to worry about them. Now 4 cards in the Lost Zone, and we're now just starting the train of Flower Selectings.
Yeah, where were you guys last turn? This is ridiculous. But at least now getting to 5, you see the scoop up net there leading to 6, and you have to think that at least one more switching effect will be able to get the job done here. And then you start to line up which attackers work out here. Is there a potential window for Raikou to close out?
I think Pablo can win the game this turn if the energies are there. I think a metal energy is prize, and that is the big deal at this point. Oh, it is. Yeah, that's the issue. I think the metal energy is in the prize card, so Pablo... Well, yeah, it is. So Pablo does not have the ability to utilize Amazing Shot because that card is there. We saw Pablo check the prizes earlier, so he should be aware of this, that this is not a potential. We'll see what happens. But even at worst here, Pablo can utilize Spit Innocently to do this. And this is why checking your prize cards is so important. If Pablo didn't check through this, could have panicked and just right away, or got excited and right away powered this Raikou up. Or attempted to, rather, right? The metal is prize, you can't do it.
It would have been dangerous, but yeah, we will at least see it benched down, so maybe he just thinks that there's an opportunity, or could even just find the metal and feel comfortable. Hey, that's a nice one to find.
Wow, that is a great find. Exactly what you want to find off the prize cards. Only playing 2 copies of it, and you already lost zoned 1, so There's going to be no ability to utilize that card. That's so powerful in this matchup without it. Raikou, with something like a Choice Belt, can deal more damage, but in this list, Pablo has not opted to play any of these damage modifiers, just strictly saying I'm going to put as much damage on the board as I can. 240 total damage with the Raikou, 240 total damage plus with the amazing Rayquaza, and Sableye can just easily finish off these targets. But a big top deck there from Jake finds the Irida off the top of the deck.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs at this stage. Could be a little late. We do see going for some basic Pokemon here. Just understands maybe he has to play this a little slower than he'd like to, and get some of these support Pokemon down. Needs those Sobbles to eventually get to those Drizziles.
So this is the question for Jake. So does have Evolution Incense in hand, but really wants to put down 2 of these Sobble so that just in case one of them gets knocked out this turn, that there's the potential to search some more cards out of the deck with something like Irida. Does have the V-Star already in hand and the energy like we mentioned earlier before. And Cramera will easily go down to this attack on the Palkia subspace. Well, I'm so used to saying the names in different language that sometimes I struggle to like figure out what the attack names are. But it is subspace well, and it will take the knockout onto the Cramera hands.
Yeah, I do not have that issue, thankfully. So I'll be there to help you out, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
You know, the Palkia here, obviously, taking a big knockout, and this is a huge turn here for Pablo. If he's able to knock out this Pokemon, yes, there is the availability of Raihan in the hand, but there's not a Pokemon that you really want to accelerate with Jake's side here. Just the 2 Sobbles now, so could really put his opponent in a really difficult spot if he takes the knockout.
So now 7 cards in the Lost Zone. Mirage Gate is online and available. Raihan can bring back this Grass energy, and let's check the deck and make sure those types are there. So it does need Lightning, Metal, and Grass. Lightning is in the deck, and the Metal energy is in the hand, so it's more than possible to do this. Can also utilize this to power up the amazing rare Rayquaza. And just off the bat here, with how strong these opening turns were, and also how weak Jake's start was, Pablo feels like he's already just running away with this game.
Yeah, and even if you're not able to take the knockout onto the Palkia here, at least you could remove one of the Sobbles, and that just slows Jake down so much. If you can continue to put pressure on and soften up the Palkia as well, that could be a strong play here.
So I think the choice here for Pablo is, what is your card that you grab off this Raihan? That's what's great. Not only does Raihan accelerate, but it acts as a mini search out of your deck. Very, very similar to a card like Teammates that we saw years ago, to just grab pieces out. But while grabbing one piece, it accelerates, which sometimes is even better than grabbing an additional piece. But it looks like Pablo is understanding that chaining Raihan together is going to be a very solid way to continue to get these attackers powered up, like the Raikou into the amazing rare Rayquaza. And this is the choice now for Pablo. Understands this Raikou can not take the knockout onto the active, but it can still apply pressure and knock out a Sobble. Or do you try to put together an attack on this Rayquaza instead and take a knockout that way? But it looks like the resources aren't there. We need to discard an additional energy type in combination to the attack cost. And I mean, again, as we mentioned before, the Sableye can easily take knockouts later on in the game. This is going to be a whole lot of pressure Pablo is applying. 240 damage. Actually, going to play the escape rope, which will be able to knock out both of these Sobble on the bench, leaving Jake with essentially nothing in hand and no ability to get these specific cards searched out of the deck.
Yeah, and you know what? If you take the knockout, guess what? Raihan's waiting right there, and it'll search out that Mirage Gate. Rayquaza's going to be taking a huge knockout on the lone Pokemon V here, and Jake's looking at his hand going, I've got Raihan. I can give my Palkia a 3rd energy?
I mean,
is there even an energy in there?
I actually don't think there is an energy. No, and that's just it. Jake understands there is no feasible way to win this game. Going to scoop things up, and we're going to game 2 just in there to complete the game. But things are looking a lot better now. Nothing super noticeable. Quick Shooting Inteleon can be good if you can get it up and evolved later on and essentially set some damage up slowly on things like Manaphy on the bench, force your opponent to utilize resources. But at minimum, does have Quick Ball, so can start to get some Palkia into play, and the Hisuian Ball as well. Can look through these prizes, make sure that there's easy knowledge. Saves you time from searching your deck as well. Just write all your prizes down, and you never have to worry about it again. Can also grab the Sobble there,
Get a free Sobble, you know? That's exactly what you want to find there. You're not running into any issues. You already have that Manaphy in the hand, so you're going to have that available when you need to. And just having multiple of these Pokemon that are used for your setup, that's going to be exactly what you need to find here. That's the one thing that obviously we did not get to see in game number 1. No evolutions into Drizzile means that you're not going to have those resources later on to continue to find what you need to play the game.
Yep, this is the backboard of the engine. It's kind of fitting that as we're nearing the end of rotation, that Inteleon has also dropped a lot in popularity. It's sort of this weird side effect of as a card, as more powerful cards slowly get released in the format, we see new cards come into its place. As the Lost Zone engine's been released, this engine has suffered because on paper you've got Sableye to spread damage and a lot of pieces that can act disruptive. But Jake's got a solid start here, able to bench a lot of really good Pokemon, playing Manaphy down early, and that's thanks to a card we haven't mentioned yet in Jake's deck, is playing one copy of Wash Energy.
Yeah, that Wash Energy has been a card that we've seen featured along with Ice Cube to help prevent any awkward knockouts that you weren't expecting to see, and of course, always beneficial to have one additional energy as well. We saw that there was a little bit of struggle there for Jake to find any energies as he was down to 0 in deck on the opening turn.
So action over on Pablo. This hand is not looking as strong as it was to start. No copies of Colress's Experiment, and no copies of Comfey besides a way to search one out with this Quick Ball. It may be very reliant on Pablo to find essentially a perfect card off of these two. Does have a few energy cards in hand. I believe maybe saw Oranguru in there as well. This is what it comes down to, because this deck, when it finds Battle VIP Pass, when it finds Colress, when it finds everything, Mirage Gate, it pops off and it feels like you could beat any deck that comes in front of you. But when you find hands where you just cannot get things going, your deck just slowly starts to crumble apart.
Yep, and that's something that Pablo is going to look to avoid here. Going to try to see as many cards as possible as we see the Radiant Greninja being pulled from the Quick Ball now, and just depends what else is going on in that hand. If it's really just going to be discard and try to find 2 cards to help out, the odds aren't exactly lined up. You've got 2 Battle VIP Pass in the prizes.
So maybe I'm thinking over on Pablo's side. The idea is, with how poor your hand is, it's very unlikely that you're going to find the ability to get Kramer at knockout this turn. Do you think the thought process of grabbing Greninja here is to draw more cards technically over Comfey? But what would be the reasoning for grabbing this card over grabbing something like Comfey off this Quick Ball?
Yeah, it could just help you in general just to see more cards. Eventually, like, he's got a lot of good utility pieces already in his hand. I believe we saw a card like the Air Balloon and a switching effect too. So as long as the Radiant Greninja found something, if it did find Battle VIP Pass, then you'd have 2 Comfeys, and then you could chain all those together and easily have a knockout with the Cramorant lined up.
Regardless, though, these will be big 2 cards off of this Concealed Cards ability. What is there? No, just finds 2 energy cards. Primate Wisdom as well can try to bail it out. All right, look.
Save
in
me,
Arlington,
monkey.
it found Ultra Ball. I hope for Pablo it finds Colress, and let's see what it was. Raihan, no. So at minimum can find something next turn, but that's not the supporter cards you want to be playing this early on in the game.
Yeah, big risk there, and it did not pay off. Had the switching effect, but is not going to be able to continue to look through the deck, and it's just unfortunate with so many cards now that just all those Battle VIP passes are useless here.
And Jake having the perfect supporter on turn 2. Irida will grab most likely this Greninja and the Capacious Bucket. That means as long as the well, there's a few cards still need to be found, and this hand is not looking too strong, but at least getting Greninja down can draw some cards, get the energy in discard pile, open up Star Portal to be able to eventually accelerate energies into play. Still needs to find a lot, though. The hand is not looking very strong besides the supporter.
Yep, and this could lead into a similar situation with the Radiant Greninja once more. It looks like that was a card that was potentially going to be eyed up there.
I think what Jake is deciding is what is the best opportunity. It's very unlikely that Jake finds the attack. Would need to find essentially a Palkia V-Star in combination with a way to get energies onto it, and also a combination to have maybe a follow-up for next turn, which with how things stand right now, there's no way to do all of that. But I think Jake's idea here is let me just take the opportunity of my opponent's slow start to find myself my Greninja to start drawing cards while also putting Drizzile into play so that next turn I can maybe evolve up into the quick shooting Inteleon.
Yeah, we see the Drizzile come down now, and if you can maybe find a card to discard an energy, get that Quick Ball or something like that, maybe you get an additional energy down into play, and you can work towards accelerating some additional energies with your Palkia V-Star later on. Maybe that could work towards the Radiant Greninja, perhaps.
Yeah, I think maybe even considering grabbing something like the Evolution Incense to pretty much guarantee that no matter what Pokemon gets knocked out, even if Drizzile gets targeted, that essentially what would happen is any of these evolution Pokemon, whether it's Drizzile or it's the Inteleon gets grabbed next turn. And you can also finish the turn off with Keep Calling. Grab yourself one more Sobble into play. No need to fill up the bench anymore. You don't need to put too many of these Pokemon into play that are weak. And here we go. Big 2 cards again for Pablo. Draws into 2 more energy cards. Those are not the things you want to be finding with Greninja. Private Wisdom finds another energy card.
Yeah, I think this just, at least for Jake's turn, it speaks to what the deck is looking to do. He's slowed down, and he understands, yeah, if Pablo's able to take a knockout, fantastic. At least I get an energy back from the discard pile, and I get the ball rolling. I'm not really in a rush right now to take these knockouts, and Pablo is not finding anything right now. Lightning energy onto the Radiant Greninja pass.
That's all you can do. You got to play this game out. There's still plenty of time. Even if this game ended now, 30 minutes is more than enough time to finish a last game. And Jake's deck is about to show us why the Inteleon engine is so powerful when unchecked. Can find Shady Dealings Inteleon to grab any 2 trainer cards out of the deck. With the power of Scoop Up Net, can utilize the Drizzile, and then in future turns, the Inteleon Shady Dealings again. This card, if you've been watching the stream for a while, you've seen that when it gets cooking and when it gets rolling, it essentially opens your deck up to play low counts of cards or crazy powerful combo cards and put together these powerful turns where you can swing the game in your favor even further.
Yeah, we'll see what piece he's looking to attack with at this stage. Obviously, having that Palkia means that you're going to have access to the energy cards, but do you want to use that Pokemon early and aggressively, or do you switch to one of these fringe utility attackers? Even the Inteleon perhaps could start to do a little bit of work here if you wanted to.
So there's a Scoop Up Net. We'll pick up the Drizzile. Can evolve either one of these Pokemon. I don't think it really matters. We'll most likely see the Origin Form Palkia attack regardless. Pablo is not doing much this turn anyways. 0 cards in the Lost Zone, 0 Comfey down, 0 attacking Pokemon down, and only has a few cards in hand as well. And we'll actually, looks like, preemptively grab the Raihan off of the Drizzile, expecting that if for some reason I get knocked out, I want to be able to power up something like the Inteleon maybe to be able to take a knockout back with Aqua Bullet. But for now, Jake is more than comfortable to just utilize this V-Star power, put an energy on this active, attach for turn. You're not getting full value, but it's all you need really to just get knockout and start taking these prize cards to win game number 2.
Yep, that's all it takes. Not going to get full use there of the Star Portal, but that's going to be enough for the knockout. And going to move on here, maybe see if Pablo can find anything. We knew that the top deck was a Lightning, but can Radiant Greninja help out?
Somewhat. Does find Comfey.
That's a card.
So can retreat into the Comfey. The Radiant Greninja received an energy last turn just for the sole purpose of pivoting out of the active. And Jake actually doesn't know yet that Pablo is not running Water Energy and has been playing Manaphy down. Regardless, though, you still want to play Manaphy down in this matchup because Amazing Shot is still a powerful attack. Sometimes you're like, oh, well, they're not playing Greninja Access. There's no reason to bench it, but Amazing Shot is very powerful. What are these 2 cards off of the flower selecting? None of them are Colress. Looks like a Cramorant and a Raihan are the 2 cards to choose, but neither of them are really going to do you much when you already have one in hand. But you've got to play your outs at this point, and that's really all that Pablo can do is try to draw some more cards off concealed cards, see what is possible.
Yeah, the problem here is the Lost Zone. We don't see many cards in there right now, and yeah, you do have Raihan, which can help you search all these fantastic cards and help build up these combos, but you have to play Culver's Experiment first. You need to get these cards in the Lost Zone so that you can work towards the Mirage Gates, and right now this just isn't going to do it.
This is what it comes down to. This is what you've got to do with this deck. This is, again, like, you still have plenty of time to play, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong for Jake in the upcoming turns, so playing to the outs make the most sense. Energy on Sableye. It can scratch to do 20 damage. That's you could go after. I mean, Sableye's a little gremlin, right? He's a little tricky here and there, so you might not know what bag of tricks he's got holding. But unfortunately for Pablo, that's all it can do is just deal a little bit of damage to the active. Does have the access to grow another Comfey, and this is kind of what Pablo's got to hope at this point, to just maybe hope that Jake can't pivot out of this active off escape rope, can utilize another Comfey, but this is what Pablo is playing to and deciding, hey, look, I still think if I find the correct cards, things go the right way. The support has already been played turn, but finally we see the first Colress's Experiment get grabbed off the second flower selecting.
Yeah, well, as Sableye's namesake, I'd be honored to see the scratch here early on, but I don't think we're going to see that just yet. Just really just thinking about what he's going to be able to do in, what, 3 turns maybe? We're nowhere close to being able to attack soon. At least maybe we'll see the Colress's Experiments come up next turn, at least, and also we see the 2 cards in the Lost Zone, so 7 is a possibility, but it is it's still a long road for Pablo.
And your great early game attackers in Cramorant. You've got one already in the discard pile and your other one lost zone, so those are not going to be easy accessible options. And there's no reason you'd ever play Ordinary Raw just to get back Cramorant, unless it would really swing your favor back in. But here we go, another Shady Dealings Inteleon, and this will open up even more doors for Jake, already eyeing up the Capacious Bucket. Can grab something like a supporter card for next turn. Really no items, it looks like, left in the deck besides that, just Boss's Orders as well. The boss could start to target maybe some of these support Pokemon on the bench like the Radiant Greninja. Could go after the Sableye, but when your opponent's already struggling, is it just worth it to just knock out these Comfey?
Yeah, I mean, there are no cards. There's 2 cards in the Lost Zone. If you're removing Comfeys, that means that you're going to slow down your opponent even more. And honestly, that might be all it takes. If you remove one of these, he can't chain those together and get to eventually 7.
Well, this will be the choice off the Shady Dealings. Does grab the Capacious Bucket, playing it, and the Boss's Orders going into the hand. And what are the options here for Jake? Does have the ability to retreat out, does not have to utilize a scoop up net, can save those to pivot out, already does have 1 in hand as well. And Jake is purposely only keeping 2 Inteleon in play, really wants to play around the potential of Lost Mine taking multiple prizes. And Jake understanding that Sableye is extremely solid at taking easy prize cards against this Inteleon line when it's slowly building back up, targeting it right away, putting the pressure on Pablo later down in the line of the game to find those pieces. But Chorus, this will be big. What does he find? Both copies of the energies and pivoting outs. At least you have Quick Ball, but even if you found the perfect cards here, you're still 5 cards short, 3 after this Chorus of being able to utilize Mirage Gate.
Yeah, I mean, you start to try to put it together, you're going to need 4 different energy types on the Rayquaza to get the knockout here. We see 2 of those Lightnings and 2 Psychics in the discard pile, 1 Grass into the Lost Zone, and starting to put together the pieces. I don't think this puzzle ends up looking too pretty.
Does find another Mirage Gate, but unfortunately still only at 4 cards in the Lost Zone. Does have the Escape Rope, but the fact that you have to utilize that on a Comfey that's already in the active means that things could get a little bit tricky. But that is going to be the choice here. It looks like actually just going to manually retreat. And this choice is smart too, because it means if you find another Comfey off of this flower selecting, you can just put that in the active, but there is nothing here. This looks like where the line ends for Zigzagoon, or rather this is where the line ends for your flower selecting. Can put the Zigzagoon away in the Lost Zone. 1 card short of being able to possibly put something together. And already when your opponent's up 2 prize cards, is it worth looking at going to game 3?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Sableye was lined up to maybe get to a point where you get to 10, you remove the Manaphy, your opponent misses, and then you start to use the Raikou to get multiple knockouts over and over again. You can avoid this this prize issue that you have right now, already down 2 prize cards, but this is definitely going to get to an insurmountable point pretty soon.
Does find the Scoop Up Net, and that is one of the cards that was needed. Can utilize Quick Ball to find another Comfey out of the deck. But again, this is the turn for Pablo. If Pablo can find a way to take a knockout onto this Palkia, apply a lot of pressure to this Palkia, then maybe down the line you can swing the prize trade back in, take some of these multi-prize turns. But if you're not even attacking this turn, it feels like Jake is already halfway to winning the game and you have done pretty much nothing but sit there and try and get your game plan going.
Yeah, I mean, we're 6 in the Lost Zone. I see the Scoop Up Net, I believe, already. But both of these Comfeys have already used their ability, so if this is going to be a turn that you attack, you're going to have to find an additional Comfey, and does not go for it here.
Nope, finding the Amazing Rare Rayquaza, looking down the line to say, all right, one day I can maybe Amazing Burst. I'm going to have it guaranteed next turn, as long as my opponent can't knock out both. And now that Star Portal has already been used, there's no feasible way for Radiant Greninja to get powered up in a single turn with how things stand. Just how does Pablo want to conclude the turn? Is it just passing with how things go? And you kind of just see the shrug of the hand and saying, yep, go ahead, start your turn over. I'm clearly not having the best time. Jake just free reign again, just go grab any piece that he wants out of the deck. Can even go after some of these cards like the Boss's Orders again to target more Pokemon down, Evolution Incense to find more pieces, lots of options to choose from.
Yeah, at this stage, you start to wonder what the next attacker lined up is going to be. At least the Raihan is available for the Inteleon to do a little bit of work, but maybe you can start to look towards the 3rd attacker in the line here and could go for that Capacious Bucket, find an additional energy, and start thinking about that route.
Yeah, more so this grabbing the water Pokemon means it can grab some basic water Pokemon. There was no way to search those out of the deck, and can finally get the Radiant Greninja up. Now that Jake sees that the Manaphy is in the Lost Zone, this is a perfect time to maybe start powering up this Greninja, because what can Pablo do to stop it? And Pablo understands that, hey, this game is just a waste of my time. I'm not coming back from this. Let's go to game 3. It's going to matter how you pilot it to get going. As the prize cards here for Jake, having 2 Irida prize is a big deal. And he playing, or I mean, he is playing 4 copies, but still, you want to find that opening hand. Things looking a lot better for Pablo. Sure, sigh of relief there. Battle VIP pass means that he'll be able to get things going, get things cooking, get some flower selectings off as well.
Yeah, we see the Colress's Experiment in the hand as well, so going to have that available for next turn. And this is exactly where you want to be. Going to be able to search out some of these Pokemon that he wasn't able to find in the opening games. Maybe that Radiant Greninja as well could be beneficial and continue this turn.
So here's the choice for Pablo. What do you find off of this battle pass? So this is the only way for you to search Pokemon this turn. What do you prioritize? And what do you think you prioritize in this first turn? There's options like Greninja, Comfey, getting your Cramorant into play. What do you choose here now that you have knowledge after game 1 and game 2?
Yeah, it depends on what the hand has. At least if we have 2 energies, I'm thinking you go for that Radiant Greninja, and having the second Comfey, of course, is very strong too. Going to be able to switch in and out between those 2 Pokemon, use the Radiant Greninja first to draw some additional resources, and maybe you find some of those switching effects to at least get more than 1 card into the Lost Zone on this opener.
Yeah, I think these flower selectings are also going to be pretty important. What pieces these find, what are forced to be Lost Zone right away. I think Pablo understands that getting rid of these early Pokemon and putting early pressure onto Palkia might just be the key at this point. You have the benefit of Raikou, even with Manaphy being in play, being a 3-energy attacker that does 240 damage to a 2-prize Pokemon. That's important. And like we said here, Radiant Greninja is so powerful in these opening turns because it essentially is just a +2 for you. You're going to be recycling these energies back with Energy Recycler. Of course, you want access to them down the line, but with cards like Raihan, with cards like Training Court, with cards like Energy Recycler, they're not gone forever. You're still going to have access to them down the line.
Yeah, I think this is actually a pretty big opportunity here for Pablo, just looking over at the Manaphy this early. There's a potential to just knock it out as early as the second turn, and Jake might struggle to be able to get that Pokemon back. And if you are in a situation like that, huge spot for the Raikou to help out.
Finds another Colress's Experiment, and here come the Lost Zone selections off of the Comfey flower selection. Now, did discard a Grass Energy, and is looking at one off of this flower selection. I mean, instantly without context, you're like, I want to just throw the Grass Energy away, draw more cards with the Escape Rope on my Comfey. But Pablo smartly understanding, hey, me being a little bit too greedy and aggressive here could come back to bite me. I'd rather just retreat it, make sure I have access to this later down the line. These cards are, I mean, they're okay, right? Like, it's not terrible, but these are resources you want potentially down the line. Jake hasn't even shown the Ice Q at all so far this game, and that could be a surprise tactic to use in Game 3. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely could make its way out here and start blocking face, but we'll see just if that is potentially on the table. Pablo, very strong here, getting to 3 cards into Lost Zone, and he's not done here. Going to continue on and at least find the Cramorant to help out and threaten that Manaphy for next turn.
I think Pablo understands that if Manaphy does not come down in this matchup, it gets very rough. The Greninja is a great piece to just take multiple prizes. I don't think he saw, oh no, he did see the Raihan. So has knowledge that Greninja can get powered up in a single turn as well if there's a water energy on it. And these are things you got to be aware of. But I think Pablo thinks to himself, you know what, I can find this Manaphy later on. Cramorant is going to be an attacker I most likely use the next turn regardless of what comes up. Let me prioritize that first. And then next turn, I don't lose the game if I don't find Manaphy. On the same side of, like, I don't lose if I don't find Cramorant. Like, you need to attack with that. But Jake's hand is a doozy here. Has double battle VIP pass, can get fully set up. I believe has supporter card in hand too. Things are looking pretty good.
Yeah, we'll have to see what else is going on there. I don't know if we saw the energy, so retreating could be weird. But maybe if that supporter is something like an Irida, then we could definitely see a huge opener here.
So that will be the choice here for Jake. What do you grab? We saw Jake take active steps in game number 2 to not bench more than 2 Sobble, understanding that overbenching could leave you in a position where maybe 2 Sobble are in play, where a Lost Mine could take a 2-prize turn, or you just end up not having the resources to evolve. So I'll be very interested to see how Jake approaches this game as we go into the final, sort of the final stretch. So this hand, on this first turn, it's okay. And honestly, the second turn, it's fine too. You don't have any way to move this Manaphy, though, and that's the big piece.
I don't think we actually saw a supporter in the hand.
No.
Saw a lot of Pokemon, a scoop up net. So this is a hand where maintaining Sobbles is going to be very nice. And if you lose your Manaphy, that means there's a window for the amazing rare Raikou to do some work.
So yeah, and this is the fact that we've had sort of two weird games to start out means that these players don't have full deck information going to this last game. So Jake has not revealed that Ordinary Rod is in the deck yet, which is a way to bring Manaphy back if it's knocked out early.
Oh,
Jake
nice.
has also not revealed if Ice Cube is in the deck, which is a very powerful card against this deck. Things to note about. Pablo probably going to be very happy that he kept that boss's orders before that previous turn off that flower selection.
Yeah, well, we do see the Scoop Up Net utilized there, trying to hold on to the Manaphy for an additional turn, but maybe Pablo is going to be able to make some quick work of that.
Opting to just utilize the flower selection before utilizing Colress's experiment will put him up to 4 cards in the Lost Zone, getting rid of that Battle VIP pass. Would have loved to see that the first turn, but it's okay now.
Yeah.
Got plenty of cards set up right away.
Look at this. Yeah, they're going to play this a very slow turn and not continue to build up the Lost Zone. It looks like, at least from this point. See that grass energy, the boss's order is going to be promoting that Manaphy up, and that's enough for the knockout there with the Cramorant now.
We'll utilize the Primate Wisdom to put not the Colress on top, but instead the amazing rare Raikou, it looks like. Actually, no, it wasn't that because we saw 2 in the hand right now, so it was the Colress. I was going to say,
that's a lot of Raikou.
Definitely think you want to put Colress on the top of the deck, right, to protect against something like the Marnie. Very smartly, Pablo will do that. Going after the Manaphy means that the gates could open very quickly. What does Jake have in hand? Does have Drizzile, but I think the key piece for Jake is how do you A, attack this Cramorant, which will just continuously hit damage into you, and B, how do you bring Manaphy back so your entire board doesn't get wiped out the following turn?
Yeah, and does it mean that your Drizzile is going to have to go and find some help from Radiant Greninja, draw into some additional resources and get some water energies into the discard pile? At least found a water off the top.
Yeah, that's a big draw because that means that this Iridum, which most likely will be the supporter choice for Jake, can grab the Radiant Greninja as the Pokemon. And then the second item can be the choice. And this is, I think, what Jake understands, is the odds of getting Manaphy back this turn and attacking are not slim. I think, and Jake understands that I would rather take active steps to go closer to winning the game than try and bring Manaphy back and hope my opponent doesn't do things. So essentially playing to every out that he has and leaving it on. If Pablo has the nuts in hand, sure, you know your opponent didn't play Colress last turn, they played Boss's Orders instead. That could be a potential option, and Jake will do just that, grabbing the Radiant Greninja and the Capacious Bucket. The big concealed card's not out of the woods yet, still needs to find the pieces here. I believe the Palkia V-Star is not already in hand. I'll have to look and see. If it is, things are not terrible. And it actually is here, so that means that this Palkia will be able to attack this turn because of the Radiant Greninja to discard one of the energy, and the second to potentially retreat out. But what a great draw there. Draws into the Drizzile and the Raihan.
Yeah, going to be ready for the following turn as well. Maybe get some additional resources in hand and threaten having that Inteleon ready. But Jake's looking over at the other side and sees that there's 3 grass energies in the discard pile right now. Going to be a very vital resource for the Amazing Rare Raikou to potentially remove a double Drizzile in a spot like this. So going to have to see some resources from Pablo utilize, maybe an Ordinary Rod, or find that one of Training Court to help out.
So we'll see second Shady Dealings come down. Quick Ball, potentially the card to get grabbed. As there's the Ice Cube, and I think that's what Jake understands. And Pablo playing that boss early means that a rote boss play back onto onto Ice Cube might no longer be possible. As there it is, showing the Ice Cube, keeping it safe for all of the games. Can also utilize the Radiant Greninja with this Star Portal. There's now 3 energy in the discard pile to utilize Moonlight Shuriken to knock out both Comfey.
Wow.
So showing the threat of Ice Cube, taking 2 prize cards to now take the lead. A big turn for Jake in this game number 3.
Yep, and this is a little tricky now because Pablo was only able to get to 4. Of course, the Colress's experiment will be able to get to 6, but gonna have to find an additional Comfey if you're gonna work in the math this turn to start using Mirage Gate.
So I think that's what Pablo is deciding. Do you play this Colress experiment first, or do you utilize this Ordinary Rod to put these cards back? And on one hand, you put the Comfey back, so there's a chance you draw into them. But on the other fact, you put Grass Energy back into your deck, which you don't want to draw into. So that is the choice. And it doesn't really make sense to just put the Comfey back because if you do that, you're going to leave the grass energy in place. So I think Pablo has found a nice middle ground. Oh, actually, no, just going to throw every... Oh, yeah, he did find a middle ground, right? Oh, no, 2 energy got put back there.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
well, it's kind of works either way because you still get to maintain having 1 grass energy in the discard pile if you do run into the training court. If you do see one of these grass energies and you just have to hold on to the rest of the cards, it's pretty easy to throw one of those away, knowing where 1 is and having 1 more in the deck.
Nice middle ground, best of both worlds. As this will be a big 5 cards off Chorus Experiment.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
That's not okay.
No way to find the Comfey. And Jake Gearhart's strong, aggressive play of knocking out both of these Pokemon that can put cards in the Lost Zone has paid off for him in this position. Pablo is going to be forced to just swing into this Radiant Greninja unless this draws into Comfey, and it does.
Wow.
But is there a way to pivot into it? I don't think there is with every... I mean, you could manual retreat this Cramorant.
And then you need to find a switching effect off of the Comfey. You have double Mirage Gates to get the ball rolling. It's a lot of resources.
Out of the 6 cards in the Lost Zone, 3 of those cards are energy cards. And when you look at energies that are prized, it could get very tricky with what is available.
Oh, he almost retreated without having the Comfey down.
Yeah.
That's not something you want to do.
I'm getting flashbacks from Worlds with that play here. I think Pablo understands this is what needs to not happen. But the Air Balloon will get Lost Zone. What was the card that was taken? Was that a switching out?
You know, you start to wonder.
It was Escape Rope.
Wow.
Wow. So the question is, does Pablo have the energy in deck already, or does the energy recycler need to be exhausted to get this knockout? Regardless, double Mirage Gate plus Raikou means that we can see 2 prized cards get taken this turn because Manaphy is not in play over on Jake's side.
Yep, Pablo's going to go ahead and use the Oranguru there as well. Now cashing in on the Escape Rope. I was very curious to see which Pokemon Jake was going to move up into the active spot. It is going to be that Sobble, and this lines up very strong for the Raikou. Going to be able to cash in on a big knockout with the double Mirage Gate, and even gets to hold on to an extra one in that hand. 3 of now.
You really want to see Energy Recycler bring back all 5 energy, but at the cost of being able to take a big 2-prize turn, it's worth it, as we do see the first Mirage Gate come down. So let's keep a close eye on what energies are available. So the Metal Energy is in the deck. Does still have the Fighting Energy, but of course the 3 energy required are the Metal, Lightning, and Grass Energy. So I think the choice here now is, does Pablo bench another Pokemon to get full access off this Mirage Gate? Of course, as we saw Caleb play in that previous game, putting energy on a Comfey is never bad because it is a consistent pivot, but Rayquaza is going to be a great Pokemon to deal with the Palkia down the line. So might as well just put an energy on it, make it a little easier to get powered up. Now it means that Raihan, in combination with an attachment, could get there. More options the merrier, right?
Yeah, this lines up for eventually just being able to have the attachment for the Raihan and using the Mirage Gate to find the additional 2. Now you have the 4 energies necessary to knock out the Palkia V-Star. That could potentially be one of those threats that you're looking at.
And there it is, amazing shot. 2 prizes, knocking out the Drizzile and the Sobble. Pablo going down to just 3 prize cards left. And the prizes are right there. Knock out one of these 1-prize Pokemon and take a big knockout onto this Palkia V-Star. And the interesting thing to note again, Jake is left with 1 energy in play, just on that Greninja. Palkia has no energy. Needs to utilize one of these supporters to bring them back. Already has the Raihan. We saw they get grabbed or get found off of the concealed cards. That means this Palkia can get powered up. Any card can get grabbed out of the deck. Have to imagine Jake is looking to, at some point, get this Manaphy back into play.
Yep, you start wondering, do you also look at supporter cards to manipulate later on down the road? There are cards like Roxanne that you could maybe start to make use of, and this is a deck that does struggle against cards like that. It's, you already see so many resources being used. The deck is just going to be a lot of energy cards after recyclers are used too, and you can just run into those hands similarly that we saw in last round.
So Jake has pulled out a bunch of surprises in Game 3. Ice Cube was shown first. Then it was, though it hasn't shown the Ordinary Rod, but that's also a potential option here. We haven't even talked about the fact that Lost City is in this deck. How could that impact things and maybe put Pablo on the back foot out of nowhere?
Yeah, when you look at this deck, maybe without full information, you think that it's just 1 Raikou as well. If you remove that threat, then you're not expecting to see the second one. We know it's sitting in the hand right now, and that could be tricky. You also add to the loss counter, and that could open up Sableye.
Risk reward definitely matters on the situation. I'm sure both these players are doing everything in their power to clutch victory out of thin air when it comes to this last match. Looks like will be the Inteleon grabbed off of the Shady Dealings, and then Shady Dealings grabbing the Lost City, like we mentioned, and the Raihan for the following turn. However, with how things stand right now, I don't know if the energy card is there to attack with the Palkia. Am I mistaken at this point?
I don't know if I've seen it yet. I would really hope that that's an available card. Maybe
Oh, it is.
Okay, good.
It's the back of the hand. All right.
You would think that maybe Capacious Bucket would be searched if not, but yeah.
Absolutely. So there's the Lost City. So as you said, it is going to make Pablo easier to get to the 10 cards in the Lost Zone. But more importantly, it is going to remove the Raikou out of play for the rest of the game. Jake's going to go down to 4 prize cards. Pablo has burned a lot of resources at this point. Boss's Orders is gone. The Mirage Gates are gone. 2 Mirage Gates are gone. The Energy Recycler is gone. Ordinary Rod. So as you see, as I'm going through this list, more and more cards are gone. As we get to this end game, Jake is very actively trying to limit his board to make it as high HP Pokemon as possible in play. Pablo is going to need to find the resources left pretty much perfectly with what's available, take the knockout, and it starts with finding Mirage Gate, which is already in the hand. Pablo immediately throwing it down, getting ready to try to take a knockout with this Rayquaza. Has the 2 energy and the energy in hand. That's what's needed to take a knockout onto this Palkia.
Yeah, just drew the Psychic off of the top, so that's going to be a fantastic way to close out and take the big knockout here, get down to just 1 prize card remaining, and then you start to wonder where the rest of the pieces are in order to close things out. I think that a card like the Training Court would be so crucial to help get over that hump there at the end. You need to have that last energy as you're looking at all of these resources that have already been used, and it gets really tricky.
And if you're Jake, what do you do next turn when your Palkia is knocked out? You grabbed Raihan, but it looks like with how this hand is looking, you're going to need to find multiple pieces, and it's really hard when you don't have Sobble or Drizzile in play to evolve up into Shady Dealings the next turn. We will see Colress Experiment get played. Great card selection, but it feels like too many great cards to look at because you're going to have to Lost Zone some of these, but I'm sure Ordinary Rod, Training Court, both cards that you're more than happy to have. Just comes down to what are you willing to get rid of, and it seems like at the court is a pretty easy decision because you want those 2 cards, and the Scoop Net is great, but you're already at 10 cards in the Lost Zone. You already have the energy attachment, and there it is, 4 energy on this Rayquaza. You've been excited to see it all weekend. I'm excited to see this amazing burst deal a whopping 320 damage. That guy's flying through the skies, ready to make a big impact.
Yeah, that is exactly what I expected to see at this tournament. And sure enough, Pablo is going to be giving us the fireworks that we've been looking for. Already also that Training Court making an impact, going to find that grass energy now and just draw some additional resources. Get the hand nice and full. If your opponent does use Raihan, yeah, they get those additional energies accelerated and probably knock out the Rayquaza, but that means that you didn't get Roxanne, and you're going to have the resources to potentially close out.
And you can probably assume that Jake is at max playing 1 more Stadium card. What are the odds of that being in hand or having the ability to search that out? Means
or being a Training Court.
Used there. And there it is, 320 damage, a big, amazing burst. Pablo going down to just 1 prize cards left, drawing into the Raihan as well. You have Raihan on your own side if you're Jake.
Jake thinks the Lost City is still out. He threw the Palkia into the Lost Zone.
So unfortunately, Palkia is not lost. It is still in play, but we'll go ahead and draw the card as well. So and you see
Come
sometimes,
back here, little buddy.
and that just maybe shows the respect for stadiums at this point. Does draw to the Water Energy. That is a good card to draw on Jake's side because that means that's 1 piece that doesn't need to be searched out. So if there's another Palkia V-Star in the deck, which there is, can be grabbed with the Raihan. And Jake's game plan at this point has to be, this Palkia V-Star is going to get me through the game. My opponent's not going to be able to deal 280 damage to it over the course of the next 3 turns, and I'll be able to take the knockout just using this Pokemon. Pablo has plenty of options to close the game out. Luckily, there's no low HP Pokemon in place, so Sableye is not an immediate threat. Who knows, things can quickly change with the access of some of the support Pokemon in the stack.
Yeah, we'll see what's left. This definitely seems like an uphill climb here for Jake now. Just going to have all of his eggs in this basket right now. And yes, you are taking that knockout on the Rayquaza. That's going to be fantastic. But Pablo's holding on to so many cards in his hand right now. Maybe if you can at least avoid some problems this turn, you could use that Roxanne to avoid problems on that next turn.
So found the Ordinary Rod to put back potentially Pokemon. But at this point, low HP Pokemon don't want to be put into play because
I don't want Manaphy.
They go, essentially all it is just an easy target for Lost Mine to take a knockout. Now that you know Psychic Energy is in the deck, you saw that earlier, and now you know for sure. And here we go. This is a big time turn. Does Pablo have it here? The Raihan can power up the same
do we have the Zigzagoon?
It is still in deck.
Wow.
The Zigzagoon is here. Finding Quick Ball, has the Zigzagoon already in hand. hand, pinging the Greninja, putting 10 damage on it, the scoop up net as well, and there's a Lost Mine. Pablo Meza taking game number 3 with just 2.5 minutes to spare, going to 5-0-1, showing us that when Lost Zone is able to get to the deck, find all the pieces it needs, it can do incredible things.
Yeah, what a fantastic utility card that we've seen so many players start to shy away from. Gonna make the inclusion here, and sure enough, what a great